Good morning, everybody in the room and everybody online. Welcome to the first in many years Miami-based town hall. Good to see this many faces in here. My name is Nick Bader. I'm the president of Miami. Started April 1st. I'll be here for 2 years. Right now, we have an interim-based vice president. That's Alba Toledo. I'm going to have Alba come up and just say hi. Everybody online can see who she is.
Good morning, Miami. Thank you for being here.
So Alba and I, until the special election is held in August, Alba will be your interim vice president. We're working together along with many of our BCRs here at the base to accomplish lots of things every month. One of our full-time BCRs we have right now is Tim Lagueros. Tim came up to us from the negotiating committee, and now he's here. So,
hello. Thanks for coming.
yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Checking everybody in was Christine Grandillo. She's one of our BCRs. Christine helps us with the new hire base in-doc. She's here every Monday. We have 2 more new hire classes the next 2 weeks. And then we'll be done with new hire classes, at least for the summer. We're not sure about the rest of the year yet. Back on the computers, we have Todd Smitala. Todd's one of our BCRs. He also works at APFA headquarters. He does a lot of our technology. He's running our meeting online. Also online today, we have Laura Briez. She's one of our base council representatives. Laura is the one who put this fantastic slide presentation together for us today. She also works at APFA headquarters doing a lot of the digital stuff you see on the website, all the presentations you see. I think we can go a couple of slides. Next slide, Laura, and one more after that. There we go. So if you don't know yet, we have tried to streamline communications here in Miami to make sure that you can go to one place, one phone number, one email address in order to get help if you need representation, you have questions. So the phone number at the top, the 954-890-2732, you can call that number. You can also text that number. So if you're in a situation where you can't call, you can text it. We ask you to give your name, employee number when you text us, and whatever is going on, we can help you with through text or call. And then we have MIA@apfa.org. That's our email box. Every base council representative on duty has access to this, so whoever's on duty can answer any questions you have. We try to get back to you as quick as possible. But that is the place. Next slide. Resources for Miami. Obviously, the APFA website. Has anybody not been on the APFA website since it's been redone? Brenda, it looks fantastic. The APFA website, for those who were not here before it was redone, was pretty archaic and it was hard to find anything. Todd was actually pretty instrumental, and Laura as well, in getting us a new redesigned website that's very useful. You can search just about anything. We have lots of helpful things on our Miami base page. Each base has their own page. We have one that gives, you can always access the base briefs. And we're updating it. We're going to be updating it more to put more valuable information specifically to Miami on that page. So if you have any suggestions of things you want to be able to find on that page, just email us and let us know what you're interested in, and we can work on that. We're always open to suggestions. We're trying to expand our technology here in Miami and use it to our benefit. We have the Miami Facebook. If anybody's not in the Miami base group, Christine runs that for us, and she does a fantastic job. QR code for the Facebook page. And then Miami also has its own Instagram. So anything we put out in base briefs, we try to get out on the Instagram and the Facebook. So those are, if you're into social media, that's a way you can follow us without having to go to the website or your email all the time. Alba runs our Instagram, and she's been doing that since she worked on the CAT team. If you did any pickets, you know Alba from the pickets. She was out there in that red shirt and making sure everybody was in line. If you are off this Saturday, APFA has purchased a place in the Wilton Manors Stonewall Pride Parade. So if you're available on Saturday, all you have to do is scan the QR code, purchase your admissions ticket, and you can walk with us in the Pride Parade. When you purchase your ticket, there's also a t-shirt that was designed, and that you can get one of the t-shirts for it as well. I wish I had a picture of the t-shirt. It was really nice. But if you're off Saturday, come out and participate. I know Todd will be there. Alba will be there.
Glow party too. It's a glow parade.
It's at night, so it won't be as hot.
Drinks in my place. in the dark, so.
Alcohol's involved. Flight attendants will be there. Next slide. So, just want to give you guys a little insight as to what we're doing in Miami. So this is just for the month of May. In the month of May, so we have three full-time representatives, myself, Alba, and Tim. We work for you all month. And then when we take our days off, which are very few out throughout the month, we have a couple people who fill in for us. But last month we did about 350 phone calls between the three of us. We did 120 meetings. That's only what's on our calendar. There are lots of meetings that don't make on the calendar, but that's what we have on the calendar. More than 200 text messages and more than 300 emails, and that was just last month. That's all day, every day. That's how we're taking care of Miami flight attendants. We're going to start putting some of these on the website and also in our allocations brief, just so you guys know, what's going on. I think those numbers are going to get drastically higher with all the changes that occurred yesterday. Next slide. That's just a snapshot of my calendar of what you could see. It's nonstop. It just keeps going and going and going. Slide. So one of the big hot topics is the management restructure. Who got an email yesterday saying who your manager was? You got it yesterday? I got mine this morning. So I will say it did finally come through. So as you know, based on the communication, the management structure has changed. You no longer have one manager and an attendance manager. You now have three managers. And there's management going to be out in the terminals. So I think the next slide explains a little bit more of what the structure is. And so the goal of this restructure, they say, was to make sure that we interact with 80% of our flight attendants, because right now they're only interacting with about 15%, and those are the 15% who are on the performance track or on the attendance track of discipline. That, flight attendants have always said, I never talk to my manager unless I'm in trouble. Well, they're trying to change that. They're trying to get coordinators and managers in the terminal to see you every day. They're going to have a handy dandy little app on their phone that's going to tell you all. They're going to tell them all about you. Filed a flight attendant report, they're going to know about it, and they're going to ask you questions about it. Have an anniversary or a birthday, they're going to know about it. So they have an app that's going to tell them everything they need to know about you. They're also going to be performing more checks of your EFB uniform. They're going to be asking you about catering. So there's going to be a lot more interaction between flight attendants and management now. But now we have a senior crew manager. So that manager is in the office. That's your person to go to for anything that's not performance or attendance. So if you have a question about a PBS bid, a TTS, UBL miss award, questions about your paycheck, that's the person you go to, your senior crew manager. They are your go-to for that. The in-flight operational coordinators, those used to be the MOD. So those are the people who sit in the crew service center. Most of them now are going to be in the terminal every single day. They will have a list of flights. For those who were here when we had rampers, it's going to be similar to that, but they're not going to be ramping because they're not going to be checking for catering. They're not going to be doing that. They're going to be there to interact with you. They should be able to help with any day-to-day issues. If you're having an issue on the flight, you have an issue with your scheduling or crew tracking, they should be able to help you. So if they come up to you and you have a problem, tell them. If they can't solve it, let me know, because that's a problem. We were told they will have all the tools necessary with them to help you in the day-to-day operation. If they don't, we can try to resolve that. New is the crew performance manager. Right now we have three. So for 3,800 plus flight attendants, we have three performance managers, and they're responsible for any meetings about performance, late to gates, reserves not positioned for duty, FA4 delays, issues, all the number of things that are on the performance. That their job is to only talk to you when you have a problem with performance. And crew attendance managers, that doesn't change. We've had those for years. They're still doing the same thing. But about the crew performance managers, I forgot. We are going to end up with 6, but right now they've only been able to hire 3. So those meetings, and they've told us the performance manager meetings are going to ramp up and there's going to be more of them because they're going to start holding every flight attendant accountable. So take that. That's the language they use, is to hold you accountable. So we'll see what that turns out to be.
If you have an issue on a flight, say passenger issue, after bed, crew on crew issue, who these people am I supposed to talk to?
It's a good question.
If you have an issue on a flight,
The question was, if you have an issue on a flight, let's say you have a crew to crew conflict, or you have issues with passengers, you need to remove them. You have lots of, all the issues we have. I would say it's the coordinator if they're there, right? If they're around. If not, then I would say it's your senior crew manager, because it's not performance and it's not attendance. So the senior crew manager oversees the in-flight operations coordinator. So if you have any issues with them, the senior crew manager is the person to go to. We have to remember that it is the company's responsibility to maintain flight attendants' knowledge. They have to help flight attendants when things go wrong. Right now, they like to push everything onto APFA and say, no, just call your union, just call APFA. APFA is saying, nope, that's your job. You're the employer. You are to make sure TTS runs appropriately. You are to make sure UBL operates how it's supposed to. And if they don't, it's their problem to solve. They have the access. It's their system. It's not mine. It's not APFA's. It's not yours. So when you have those issues, the first thing you should do is send an email to your senior crew manager. Tell them I have a problem and I need you to solve it. If for some reason they don't, then you can come to APFA and we'll take it up from there. But the company needs to fix their problems, and we know they've got a lot of them. So like I said, APFA has been told that's to offer support to flight attendants, not for administering compliance checks and discipline. If you've been here long enough, you know that what they say is not what they mean. Managers should not be roaming the airport looking to issue discipline or add unnecessary stress to our already demanding workday. Approaching it this way will only lead to the program's failures. Again, they say it's going to start out positive. They're going to come to you and it's going to all be positive. Just making sure you have what you need to do your job. If for some reason they come to you and that's not the way the interaction goes, just let us know. The more we know, the more we can help. If we're not made aware of the situation, there's not much we can do about it. So as soon as it happens, let us know and we can address it as it happens. I think it's great on paper that they think this is the way it's going to go, but I don't know in reality that's what really is going to happen. I see people here who've been here a while who understand that lots of things start out with good intentions, but that's not how they end up. And the next slide. Senior crew managers and the in-flight operations support should be knowledgeable with our contracts, including all the provisions, rescheduling, legalities, deadheads. Like I said, anything you have, they should be able to answer the question. They shouldn't say go to APFA. And email is the best way. And now in Crew Portal, I don't know if anybody's seen it. If you go to Crew Portal and hit the little person or your name, it drops down. You can see their whole name, and it gives you a button to call them and email them. So now it's easier to find out who these managers are and to reach out to them. Before you had to know your number, then you had to know their email. So now it's just quick and easy. A couple other hot topics. Moving on to the next slide. The 787-9P staffing. I know we don't have that airplane coming to Miami, but are you all aware that the company is trying to lower the minimum number of flight attendants on the 787-9 to 7 from 8? That would leave a door unmanned at all times on the ground in case. So if there was an emergency, there would be a door that would not be manned by a flight attendant. That's a safety issue. We know things arise quickly, and a flight attendant at every door is what we need to make sure that the flight stays safe, passengers stay safe, and we're safe. APFA sent out a communication in the last couple of days asking you to email David Seymour, letting you know your concerns that you have with that. So if you haven't done that, it's pretty easy. You just click the link and it helps you write it really quickly. Second service. If you fly those IPDs or the Transcons, Seattle, now we have our second service back without the return of staffing. I have filed a base notice of dispute that is now at the national level of SBA, the System Board of Adjustment, waiting to be heard at that level about the company saying that there would not be a return of service at an arbitration for staffing, the return of service without the return of staff. The newest hot topic is the trips with money, incentives, hugs, kisses, candy canes, Christmas trees. Last week, the company put out a very clear communication that is no longer acceptable at American Airlines. They believe that they own the trips, so their flight attendants don't own the trips, and they cannot offer incentives to drop trips, trade trips. Management started over the weekend calling flight attendants who had ETB post with incentives attached, telling them to edit the post, remove the post, and that this was their warning. After they warn flight attendants for a short period of time, they will start issuing discipline, and they have said that discipline can be up to and including termination. I was in the room with Bobby Wells who's our vice president, when she informed us that the company was going to start taking a hard stance on this. And she was very direct that this has come to an end. It's not something that is acceptable to in-flight, and they want it to end. So please don't put, 50 reasons to call me, or, now they're getting real tree. It just says, just call me, So if you have something that appears as though you're adding an incentive, you will get a phone call. They're doing it every day. Yesterday, I had 6 phone calls from flight attendants saying they're calling me to talk about ETB. So they are monitoring the ETB boards actively. So just please be very careful. The jump seat, commuters or people traveling, we currently have a presidential grievance about being denied a jump seat during weight and balance, or when there's a weight restriction. The company is not following our contract. So if you are in a situation, what should happen is if there's a weight restriction and they clear it for one jump seater, right? So they've made the weight restriction less, one jump seater. Whoever the first jump seater on the non-rev list, whether it be a pilot or a flight attendant, should get the jump seat. What we see happening is pilots telling the agents only a pilot is allowed to be put in the jump seat, skipping sometimes 1, 3, 5 flight attendants to get to that pilot. If you are in a situation that happens, we have a form on the APFA website. Please fill it out. We are trying to gather data to go forward with the presidential grievance because the company is knowingly violating the contract. They have told us that they are violating the contract, but we just need the data. So when we go to arbitration, we can say, this is how many times they do it. And we know it's happening on a daily basis. If somebody's talking to you and they said that happened, just let them know there's a form that they can fill out to help. CQ. Has anybody gone to CQ this year and did their web-based trainings already? It took you forever. So the company, the last update we had, the company realized that yes, it took more than 8 hours. That's what the contract says it can take. The company has said they have made edits to the training now, and now it should be good. Should be. They don't know. So if you're doing CQ and it takes you more than 8 hours and you track it, there's a way to track them, and the APFA website breaks it down. There's a form for that. Because what happens is once everything gets resolved, we'll be looking at getting compensation for the contract violation. And if your name is not, if we don't have your data, it's going to be hard to get your compensation. So if you do CQ, keep track of time that takes you to do your modules, fill out the form so we can have your data. Data is super important. APFA is starting to gather as much data as possible. That way, when we have these issues arise, we already have the data. We're not going out and searching for it later. We can already have it. I'll skip the next one for a moment. Professional standards. Everybody's heard of professional standards, right? Okay, good. So professional standards is the place where we like to take disputes with flight attendants that can't be resolved between flight attendants. Once you come to the office and you make that complaint to management, or you go through ethics point, an investigation must occur. And those investigations most of the time lead to discipline for one or both parties. So if you can call professional standards, it's a peer-to-peer conflict resolution. You're talking to a flight attendant that's going to try to help, resolve the issue. That is definitely the way to go. Summer IROPS. The storms have started. We know they've started. They're here almost every afternoon. In the next brief and on the website, there is a whole hotline about irregular operations. about what scheduling can do once you have a cancellation, what all the timeframes are for when they can reschedule you. So there's a lot of good information. Definitely something to keep your eye on, especially as the IROPs happen, because we know they're happening every day. Last week, I think it was Monday. We had the IT issue along with weather, and it was a nightmare around this place. I looked at the board and everything was yellow or red. So, just make sure that you guys understand the contract language. If you have a question, just call us. That's why we're here. We'll answer any questions. Call us, text us, email us. The dues survey. So, within the next week, APFA is going to be putting out a dues increase survey. I know we just had it the end of last year. We put out a referendum for a dues increase that failed. We've taken some of the membership feedback, and this time we're going to do a survey. And in the survey, I think it's 3 questions. And the main question is going to be ranking what you find important at APFA and what you want to see if we increase dues. So we're looking for your feedback and where you would like to see the money spent. I know, for example, there's been talk, a lot of flight attendants want an app. The pilots have a really great app. 24/7 contract and scheduling desk. There's just, it'll get you more base reps. So there's, I think, 6 options, and you can rank those on what you think is important. And at the bottom, there's also a little box that you can add your own comment that you find important. It'll be open for 30 days. So once it opens, it'll be open for 30 days. We ask everyone to just fill out the survey. We understand it's a sore subject for a lot of people. It's not something anybody really wants to talk about, but it is something that needs to be discussed for the betterment of APFA. The last dues increase was in early 2000s, and things have gotten a lot more expensive, including wages. So we just ask that once it comes out, you do the survey. If you have any questions or issues with it, reach out to us or to membership at APFA, and they can help you make sure all your online access is good, so you can do that survey. So APFA national versus APFA local. This is always the question of, do I come to the base reps or do I go to APFA national? And it's a kind of a muddy situation because we have a lot of overlap in what we can do. I'd say if you're in a emergent situation, you need something done, you're on a trip and it's something done immediately, reach out to the base reps, right? Talk to us. We can, if it's you have a medical, you have an issue, you need to get off the trip for whatever reason, there's something abnormal going on, reach out to us. If you have an issue with like TTS, UBL, PBS, there are avenues, right? The first one is that systems, the support tab on Crew Portal to alert the company there was a problem, right? So the company can begin investigating the issue. Also on the APFA website, there's a systems issue form, scheduling system issue form. That way you can fill it out, and APFA contract and scheduling desk can begin looking at the issue. If you let both parties know, then both parties can take up and try to figure out what the problem was and fix it as soon as possible. If it results in some pay loss because of whatever it was, that's also investigated in those forms, and we work to resolve that with the company. If you have an issue where you're missing pay, you can come to us. Also file a direct connect. Anytime there's a pay issue, file that direct connect, because the first thing that does, 1, alerts the company, and 2, preserves the documentation. And anytime there's an issue with your schedule, please take screenshots. By the time, a lot of times you bring it to a representative, those are gone and they're hard to get back. So if you don't have those screenshots when it happens in the moment, sometimes they are hard to replicate. So always take screenshots in your phone. My phone is full of screenshots. It's ridiculous. But so direct connects, support tab, and the forms on APFA website. Those are some of the best ways to resolve issues that aren't immediate. And the next slide, Alba. If you don't know how to contact APFA headquarters, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, Central Time. There's the phone number for the contract and scheduling desk, as well as they do have chat on weekends and holidays. So they aren't open for phone calls on weekends and holidays, but they do have live chat just in case you need to contact them. And we'll leave it up just for a little bit. And you'll see the little green chat bubble on the screen when you go to APFA. You can text them, you can WhatsApp them, you can Facebook message. You can just, if you have an Android, you can SMS text them. So there's lots of ways to reach out to APFA straight direct from the website. I covered this. We need the data. So anytime you have an issue, an IROPS, PBS issue, a pay issue, a hotel issue, there are, I think, 20 plus forms on APFA just to collect data. And that data also helps you resolve any issues you had with whatever it is. So like an IROPS, if you put in an IROPS and you think you were rescheduled incorrectly and it's after the fact, fill out the form. It can be looked into. And if it was incorrect, we can work to remedy that with the company about how they violated the contract. So in these forms, you can attach photos, you can write descriptions. Please just give us as much information as possible. Like I said, a lot of it disappears and it's hard to replicate. More screenshots from the APFA. If you have sit time or you're sitting on a reserve, just peruse the website. I find myself every day finding things I didn't know were there. But under the bidding, they have everything you know about bidding: PBS, TTS, UBL, anything with ETB, resources, so safety and security, retirement. And then on the job. So anytime you're working, if it's something that has to do with why you're on the airplane or you're signed in, that's going to be the on the job resource tab. And it is just, I couldn't even tell you all the stuff that's on there because just so much information. Pages just go on forever. And we also have a search function. So if you're not sure exactly what it is, type it in the search function and let it pull up the information for you. Next slide. This is, to me, one of the best things APFA has started. So the Safety and Security Department at APFA has implemented a notification system. This is anytime you have a safety or security event while you're at work, you can call the number, the 17 number at the top of the form. And when it comes to the prompts, if you know the prompt, all you have to do is push the prompt and then you can hang up. Because what it will do is it will alert the safety and security team that you called. And let's say you push prompt number 4 for a missing flight attendant. The flight attendant didn't show up at pickup. They will immediately text you back a checklist saying, make sure you contact iOS, make sure you contact the hotels, telling you exactly step by step what to do. And that's for any of those action items. They send you a checklist immediately. And that also alerts them that something's going on. The company does notify us of events. And sometimes it's six hours to a whole day later. So sometimes if you don't tell us an event's happening, we don't know about it in real time. I will tell you the missing flight attendants option has been used quite a few times. People get to a layover and something happens either at the hospital or they decide to party, they don't show up for pickup. And what it does, it alerts us there's a problem and we can start looking for that person right away instead of it being 24 or 48 hours later when people go, oh, we haven't heard from this person. If you alert us that they're missing, we can start the process to find them. Smoke, odor, fume events. We seem to be getting an uptick of those. So what it will do is when you push number 2, they will reply with a checklist telling you to go to the hospital, what tests you need to get done, how to file an IOD, and all the steps you need to follow to make sure that you get the care you need for those. So please put this in your phone, take a screenshot of this, share it with flight attendants on the line. This is an invaluable tool that I'm so happy we have. And the next slide is the health and IOD notification system. So for them, it's a support system. So if you get injured on the job, if you have questions about our insurance, short term, if you have questions about FMLA, you can reach out to them and push their prompt, and they will also send you back information. And they can also call and text you through the same because they'll have your information. But if you have questions about IOD and health, they have the same system. Again, you don't even have to talk to them. Call, push the prompt, and you can hang up. But these are great just to say, I need info, but I don't have to talk to you. I just need some information. And there's links, screenshots, and they send it all over to you right to your phone in real time. Any questions that have come up about anything that I talked about so far? We do have some other folks with us. So I'm going to introduce some in just a minute. But yes, Brenda.
Performance manager.
Mhm.
Is there a list of what they consider the performance things are and what point is attached to which infraction they think on a list? You understand what I'm asking?
So the question was, is there a list of what basically the performance managers are in charge of? I'm gonna say anything not attendance. So anything, I mean, the list is, we have the list in the attendance and performance policy, right, of what is a performance event. Missed assignments, which are missed trainings, late to gates, FA4 delays, customer complaints. The list can go on.
And what is the point attached to?
So there are no points in the performance program. There are they're events, so they don't have points. So there is no, the attendance program. It's 4, 6. There's a progression. Performance program, there is no point progression. So it all depends on the severity of the issue. So let's say you had a late to gate, but there was no delay. It's just probably going to be a conversation. But let's say you had 3 late to gates and an FA4 delay. Well, now they're going to say, well, you continually cause a problem. There might be an advisor. Let's say you punch a passenger next week, Brenda. Now I know that anger of yours. So now they're going to go, well, a first advisor is obviously not acceptable to that. So there is no progression requirement in the performance program. They can go from you being here 40 years and absolutely nothing to being terminated tomorrow, if they consider whatever the infraction or event was to be severe enough.
But there's no change to the attendance or performance policy.
There's no change.
How many points you have to in order to be terminated?
How many points you have to have? So in the attendance policy, it's 11, right? In the performance, there is no, again, you don't get points. You get events. You don't get a point. So while you'll see a number, if they don't consider a point, they consider it an event. And there is no set number on performance. Performance is on a case by case basis. The company has carte blanche almost to progress you through the levels as they see fit based on what your performance file looks like. So it's open to interpretation to the company. Yes.
Other airlines have the point system. I mean, you have sick hours. So then you have this point system. So you can have a lot of sick hours, but maybe something happens and you call in sick more, so you get points.
So
I mean, it really doesn't.
as far as I know United has a point system, JetBlue has a point system. I believe Southwest has a point system. I'm not sure about Delta, but I think they have somewhat of a point system, but without being unionized, they're just kind of at the company's whim. But most airlines have a point system of some type.
Hours.
It gets convoluted when you talk about having sick hours. Remember we arbitrated the sick policy, and we got some changes to it from its original version, but now we are where we are based on the arbitration award. And also, if there's any changes to the policy, we'll definitely let you know. I haven't heard of any, but with all the management changes going on now, who knows? We're getting some new upper management and in-flight, so who knows what they're going to do next. So we have the members of the contract implementation committee here with us, not here with us, they're online with us. Kelly Hagan, Hunter Meredith, Wendy Oswald, and Mike Sosa. They're going to talk about some things that have happened already with the contract implementation and some of the things that are to come. And then they will take any questions because then they have to jump off. They have to go meet with the company in about 20 minutes. So we'll let them take it away.
Right. And actually Mike and Wendy already had to run because they're in Dallas right now, so they're driving over to the headquarters. So it's just me and Kelly today. I'm Hunter Meredith based in Philly. Nice to meet you all. The first thing we were going to talk about is the new electronic communication system that has been launched on your EFB or your tablet, if you still call it that, and on your personal device. this is replacing those 1AA alerts that we were getting previously. As of today, the TTS and UBL notifications, as well as operational notifications, which are those sign-in reminders, delay notifications, gate changes, those are all coming through ECS. So if you previously were using the one messaging to get them, you have to make sure to sign up in ECS to continue getting them as of today. We are going to have the rest of the systems coming into this over the next month. Hopefully by mid-July, all of these should be implemented fully into ECS. So if you haven't already signed up for that, please go ahead and do that because there will be some required items coming later. You can go to the next slide. We do have some two-way communications that are already set up. This is kind of the more exciting part of ECS and what we're really looking forward to is instead of calling crew scheduling, you can use the ECS app to send them a notification. Right now, we already have it implemented that you can no-show your deadhead. Previously, you would have to call scheduling or tracking to do that. Now you can just open the ECS app, hit contact AA, enter your flight information and hit send. Once crew tracking and crew scheduling have processed it, you'll get a notification back letting you know that your no-show has been processed. No need for a phone call, no need to set on hold. Super easy to use. We're going to be adding calling in sick in the next few months so that you don't have to call, well, you aren't calling in sick anymore. You're going to be using ECS in sick. Same with last live leg swaps. If you've ever used that, those are super annoying to do right now that you have to call crew tracking and have both flight attendants there. It's a whole thing. In the future, that's going to be something that you can just use ECS to send a message over to tracking to process. And then same with voluntary extensions. If you are in an event that VE is offered, you'd be able to use the ECS app to send a message asking if you're able to VE or if they are offering the ability to VE, you'll receive that message from them. And with both of those provisions, you'll still be able to call. We know those situations are usually pretty time sensitive. So if something is going on, you can still call. We didn't give away that right. And then later on in the year, as we get closer to October, there are going to be some required items. So at this point, you will be required to use the ECS application for some of these notifications that will come through because contractually they are just electronic notification now. They won't be a phone call anymore. That's going to be things like if it's prior to report, if something happens to your sequence, that something changes in your sequence. In ECS, you would get a notification letting you know that your sequence has been modified. If it's more than 3 days, you could use ECS to reply and say, please take me off of this sequence, and they would. If it's within the 3 days, you would use ECS to request to come off the sequence, and it would be up to crew scheduling whether or not to honor that request. Same with notification of delays. Currently today, you know, if you are on the way to the airport and your flight's delayed and they call you to let you know, hey, we're adjusting your sign-in, you would be able to say, you know, no thanks, I'm already on the way to the airport. You have to leave it where it is. Unless they call you, Kelly, you might have to correct me. I can't remember if it's they call you 3 hours prior. Is it 4 hours, 3 hours?
3.
3. So if they call you 3 hours prior and leave a voicemail today, that counts as notification. In the future, that is going to be an ECS message. It's not going to be a phone call anymore. So you would have to be signed up to receive that. Also, after report, if there has been no disruption to your sequence, meaning nothing is wrong with your trip, you are just flying your trip as normal, and something terrible is going on at the gate next door that they need to reschedule you to work that flight, they could do that through ECS. However, we still have maintained positive contact language. So we usually call that, you know, the catch me if you can situations. So if you get that message letting you know, hey, you've been rescheduled to work the flight next door, if I don't acknowledge it on ECS, they still have to call me and they still have to catch me or have a manager come meet the flight or one of those situations to reschedule me. So that's the same as today. One of the differences is that if there is a disruption, So say you're flying, Miami to DC to Chicago, and you get to DC and your flight from DC to Chicago canceled, you have to remain contactable for when they repair your sequence. And that's going to be the same in the future, except they can use ECS to let you know when your schedule has been repaired. Um, and that's the same for after origination. The only difference is after origination is while you're mid-sequence. And I think that's all on ECS.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about some items that we're going to be seeing shortly. We had our first big wave April 1st, which is where we saw a lot of the pay enhancements like the boarding pay, the sit rig, and stuff like that. So coming October of this year, we're going to see the UBL trip improvement. So what that is you're going to be able to, for same day origination, if you see something in open time, you're going to be able to trade for that the day before that trip originates. We're also going to see the VE improvements coming, which is that 4-hour backstop, as well as the enhanced domestic pay. We've realigned it with how international is paid, which is a good boon to our domestic flight attendants. We're also going to have the pay protection, where you can double dip when you are pay protected. You will be able to do it with ETB as long as that ETB sequence is outside of the footprint of the trip in which you're pay protected. Currently, it's just by calendar day, and it will bust you out of your pay protection. So that's going to be a huge one coming to us in October, as well as last series for reserve flight attendants that are eligible for it. Currently, they're getting it for full cancellations, but in October, they will be getting it for illegal through no fault as well. A lot of the things that Hunter touched on ECS, that will be coming in phase 1, which will be in October. That will be like the sick notification. It will be in no later than October. We're hoping to get that in earlier, last live leg, things like that. And also reserve trading days off in the company. Currently, you just call, and there will actually be an electronic process for it. So we're looking forward to that. And that is also the first time that we're going to be getting reserves into TTS, because that will be ran through TTS. So that will set us up for data signing plus 18 months, which will be reserves on their day off being able to participate in TTS and UBL. And if we could go to the next slide, if you don't mind. And these are a little bit longer out. So October of next year, which will be the out of base, LMCO for line holders, also the PBS position order per aircraft, and as well as the speaker position per aircraft, depending on the type of aircraft. And we'll also have ECS phase 2, which is the nice to haves, so that they're a little bit later. And then 30 months, which is real long term at this point, is going to be the TTS exception for more negative days. And then we will round it up and finish it off with our add to drop 1 transaction in TTS. Okay, a hot topic, hotel delay penalty. We get a lot of emails on this, and I believe that Miami has seen this as well, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing it with hurricane season coming up. This is a new provision that we were able to secure, and what it is when you have had a schedule modification, right? Kind of like how Hunter was talking about, if you're a disrupted or a non-disrupted flight attendant, those are really good examples of those schedule modifications, those reschedules. When that occurs and it necessitates the need for a layover hotel, and it's very specific with the languages, it's layover hotel, not a day room. The company has an obligation to get you that hotel room. So we negotiated the language as you see on the screen. The first hour is free for the company. They got an hour to get it done. If they don't get it done within an hour, and it's not over 3 hours, then at that point you qualify for this, and you would get the 150% of the duty period prior to that layover. In the event that they still are unable to complete their duties as they should, and they have not gotten you the hotel within the first 3 hours, then at that point you get 150% for the entire sequence. With ECS, this will be a better process. We acknowledge and recognize that it's not great right now with the notification of the hotel, because the company is putting it in a crew portal and they're not actually calling the flight attendants that need this hotel. We do not agree with that. With ECS, there will be a notification with it, so it will clearly establish the timeline much better. So this is kind of an interim process right now. We will get through it, and once that gets into ECS. At the very bottom of this slide, you're going to see a little asterisk, because there's always an asterisk with contract language. And it's how this hotel delay penalty starts once 10J3 and 10J4 has been completed. So if we can go to the next slide, that's going to talk about 10J3 and 10J4. So anytime that you see a disruption to your schedule, the company has within 3 to 4 hours, depending on when it happened. And as you can see, if it's after report, that's where that 4th hour comes into it potentially. Or if you're after origination, which means mid-sequence, they have 3 hours. This time does not qualify towards that hotel delay penalty. You have to get through this rescheduling time first for that hotel delay penalty timeline to begin. A lot of times they will repair your sequence well before the 3 to 4 hours. In the event that that occurs, then that is when your hotel delay penalty potential timeline would begin. And I think that's all I have on that.
Yeah, we have another hot topic that has been coming up a lot is sit rig. This is one of the new provisions that we got in our new CBA of trying to get us some compensation for those extended sit times that we experience quite often now. So this is just an example of how sit rig is calculated. So you see here the sequence that this flight attendant had. Originally, they were only going to be sitting for 2 hours and 32 minutes between flights, but then their flight from Philly to Fort Myers was delayed. So now they have a sit time of 4 hours and 17 minutes. The way that this is calculated is the first 2.5 hours is an eligible for sit rig. So you take 417 minus 230. And then whatever time is left over, because I can't do math on the fly like that, you divide by half and you get 1 minute for 2. So in this case, whoever did the math for me got 53 minutes of sit rig pay for this scenario. Right now, there isn't a way to view sit rig in FOSS or in Crew Portal. They add it during closeout. We've been seeing them adding it on the 8th of the month or the 9th. So on the 8th or the 9th of the following month, you'll see that sit time added to your HI2. They are working to add this into the flight attendant premium pay app. You may have seen yesterday, they updated that app to show boardings. So just like now you can see the boarding times in the flight attendant premium pay, we are eventually going to have sit rig added, but I don't have an estimated timeline on that since they're working on porting over some of the other premiums. So that is sit rig. And we're here if anyone has questions.
Did you guys have any questions for
Yeah,
us?
so somebody said, so about the sit rate, if we can go back to that slide, she's saying, so the question was, after the 2.5 hours, can you go over how to calculate it again?
Yeah, so I'm going to use the original scheduled sit time just because I can do that math on the fly. So if your sit had been 2 hours and 32 minutes, you would take your 232, subtract 230, so that gives you 2 minutes, and then sit rig is 1 minute for every 2 of your sit. So you would divide that by 2 and you would get the 1 minute. So in a 2 hour and 32 minute scenario, you would be getting 1 minute of sit rig pay. But sit rig is paid on actual sit times. So if in actual operations you had less than 2.5 hours, you wouldn't qualify for sit rig. Or like in this case, if you were delayed and you had more sit time, your sit rig would be paid on the greater of the actual time.
It just has to be over 2.5. Once you're at 232, you're gonna get a minute of pay, right? So you have to at least be 232 to get 1 minute of pay, and then for every 2 minutes after that, you're gonna get another minute of pay. Okay. We did have a question come in off the chat about now that the quote unquote cartel activity is written in the contract, what is the plan to tackle the unethical bidding and trading practices?
So we have been working on metrics. We have been working with the board of directors. We're working with the company on that. At this point, we are in the finalization stages of our first metric. Once we have that finalized, we will bring that out and share that with the membership. And Hunter, what do you think? I mean, I know we've got a meeting next week on it to do some finalization, but we're still probably about a month out, I would say, if everything moves smoothly.
Yeah, the way that the talks have been, I know that both sides are very eager to get something started, especially because the company has been kind of going their own path. And with the CBA language, we're keeping people from being terminated because the CBA language locks them out of the systems in lieu of, disciplinary action from these new performance managers. So we're hoping that we can at least get one metric out there. I would really hope it's by the end of the summer at the latest.
I mean, we're shooting for that. We want to move forward with this. We all need to move forward with this.
I think we all agree on that. And then any more questions in the room? Because I do have one more question that came in offline.
Oh. Anybody have questions? Yes.
Yeah, I do. Hold on a second.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we do have some that came in from the website. Okay. Is there any way to get short call makeup implemented sooner than 3 years from date of signing? The pilots have all their changes done within a few months. 3 years is very excessive. Not having short call makeup means that more reserves are needed. It also impacts the personal income negatively, as I live close to the airport and can be there within an hour. Thank you.
I can speak to that, Kel.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah. So we had meetings with the company, and one of the people that's leading the company, the flight attendant implementation, was one of the people who was heading the pilot CBA implementation. And our timeline is a lot more aggressive than theirs was. I believe their CBA took upwards of 4 years to be fully implemented from the time they got ratified. The thing with the timeline, it's not that the less than minimum call out UBL is going to take them 2 years to program. It's because of how much else we need to get done. So, because TTS UBL is just one system, right? So, in that one system, we have to put reserves in to trade their days off. We then have to have reserves able to use UBL and TTS on its own as to pick up flying on their days off. Then we have to have out of base UBL be put in to that. So it's kind of this staggered approach that happens. It's not that one thing takes all this time. It's that we have these different pieces that are slotted in. And this timeline was the one that made the most sense when it came to how it's going to help the operation as well as how it's going to help the flight attendants over the next couple of years. The reserve piece is the biggest one, that once we get the reserves in there, it'll be easier to have the rest flow in, since otherwise we'd be putting reserves in after adding all of this new stuff that we now have to make sure works with the reserves. So we of course want it to be early. These are targeted timelines. So the 24 months, it very well could be sooner than that. That's just the deadline that we're having it, and it'll be following those other two items. So we do hope to see it sooner, but that's kind of how we fell into that.
Hunter, can I add something? The person with the question said the pilots got everything implemented in a few short months. That's absolutely not true. pilots did not get everything implemented. They had an implementation timeline very much like ours. Some things longer, so I don't know where that.
So I'm adding in, I'm not sure if everybody could hear that from Tim. Tim Lagueros is saying that it's absolutely not true that the pilots had everything implemented in 3 months.
And then I think we had one more
Oh,
question in the room, and then they have to
Sorry,
run.
just really quick to add to what I said, because another thing we hear a lot is the pilots have it, so just, copy and paste it. Our systems are completely different systems than what the pilots use. We have different legalities. We use different programs in the background. So it's not as simple as copy and pasting. They have to write all of this code from scratch to make sure it doesn't affect anything else that we use. So I just wanted to add that in.
We had a question, one more question.
Question is about boarding pay. If we taxi out and return to the gate, open the main cabin door, does that count as another boarding? The second part of the question is, if there's a diversion and we open the door, does that count as another boarding?
So I think I can answer the question, but you guys can back me up. So the question was for about boarding pay. If we board, taxi out, return to the gate, open the door, and that's it. Is there more? Does that constitute another boarding? And I'm going to say the answer to that is no, because no pass. You didn't deplane and then reboard the passengers. Same, I think,
That's
would
right.
answer the diversion question. If you divert and you only open the door, then I would say no, because nobody got off, so no boarding occurred. You just open the
Right.
door.
If not, we taxi out and passengers get off and reboard, then that counts as another reboard.
Correct. And it could even be, you don't even taxi out, right? You board, you sit there, maintenance says, exchange the tire, get everybody off, you get everybody off, and then you board again, that will count. You don't have to taxi out. It can be 2 boardings without ever having to leave the gate.
Pay for that, do we direct connect that, or is that automatic?
So the system, I think, is supposed to pick up every boarding that happens. What I would say is always back yourself up with the direct connect. And I think the team would
Can
agree
I
with
add
that.
to that?
I see both hands. Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kel.
I will say, very rarely would I say this, okay? They actually did a damn good job on this programming, because I mean, we've seen some of those crazy circumstances where I've boarded the same plane twice. It went out of service. I went to another gate, like, well, a Tuesday in Miami operations, and they're actually grabbing those and paying them, because we were going to set up a big form for the website, because we need more of those. And it's like we've gotten 2 emails, so they're actually paying it. But if there is a dispute, always direct connect.
And like I said, I don't even know if the company message has gone out. I know we haven't sent ours yet. But the Flight Attendant Premium Pay app, if you go to Crew Portal under links, Flight Attendant Premium Pay, that was updated yesterday to show boardings. So now the boardings it takes 3 days to show up. So if you board your flights today 3 times, shenanigans occur in Miami. In 3 days, those should appear on there. And if you looked and you only saw 1, you would know then, hey, they didn't capture my other 2. I need to file a direct connect. So it'll be a lot easier for you to dispute, because you're going to see them on that 3-day lag before your paycheck comes.
And so if you guys have more questions, what I would say is just email them to us, because they do need to run to their meeting to fight with the company. And I know I think we have one more question on the website, but I will email the questions to the contract implementation committee. And when I get a reply, I'll get the reply back to you, just so they can run. And there's also a way to contact them when they send out communications. There's ways you can contact them directly to ask any questions about anything contract implementation. So I want to thank the Contract Implementation Committee. Thank you, Hunter and Kelly.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Miami.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good one.
You too. And just when you thought our special guests were over, we actually have a couple of members of the contract and scheduling desk. They are the go-tos for a lot of stuff in contract and scheduling. We have Linda Hartling and Joe Trudell, and they're going to talk through some hot topics and things for contract and scheduling.
Hi guys, can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes, you might have to talk a little louder, Linda.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Can
Hold
you
on,
hear me now
hold
better?
on 1 second. I think Todd may have another.
Okay.
Okay, Linda, you can talk.
Okay, you can hear me now better? Okay, well, I'll try to move it along. Hi, my name is Linda. Nice to have you all here. Okay, let's start. UBL process. We had several inquiries about when trips open, since Miami has a 3 hour call, 3 hour window for UBL. Sometimes it closes up really close. They open up really close to the 3 hour window, especially when you have IROs. So let's say the trip opens up 10 minutes before the 3 hour cutoff. We would love for crew schedule to be able to immediately run UBL. However, that's not always possible because of timing issues. There is one scheduler. Most of the time, there's just one scheduler on the desk. Now, think of Miami. That scheduler has to not only run UBL, but also cover standbys, rota D, take phone calls, call flight attendants. UBL run might have just processed, and they're in the process of calling flight attendants to confirm the assignment of trips. So by the time they are finished with that and they get to that trip that opened up like 5 minutes ago, it might now be within the 3 hour window. It's a timing issue. They then have to process it contractually, which means it has to, since it's within 3 hours, they don't even have time to call a reserve from home. It has to go to a standby. And as the kick was explaining about the short call outs, that is going to improve that. But until then, we're having this timing issue where they might not be able to get that UBL trip covered as soon as it opens. On the flip side, on days where it's calm, they might be able to run that trip through UBL within 2 minutes and then pass it on to reserve if it's not covered. Okay, next slide.
Okay, can you guys hear me as well? This is my name is Joe, and we also wanted to clarify the pay protections when you have a legal through no fault. The FAR, which is an FI removal code, versus DC, which is a direct conflict. Direct conflict comes into aspect when the trip you had 2 trips back to back, and the first trip gets in late and directly overlaps with the second trip's report or departure. In that case, you should be removed with a DC removal code, and you are made whole or the original value of the 2 trips combined. When you are FAR legal and removed FI, that means you returned late and you are no longer have the FAR minimum rest, usually 10 hours, from release to report, and then you would be removed FI, and you would get the full value of the completed trip and the full value as awarded to you from the second trip removed FI. There are examples on the APFA website showing the pay protection as it applies to both direct conflict and FI removals so that you have those to review. Most of us have seen that on our schedules ourselves and understand the difference though. Next slide.
And you can,
Oh.
I'm so sorry, you can find that by going to resources. I'm sorry, is it resources? Legality. Yes. And no, I'm sorry, on the job legalities, and then you will see the FAR versus contractual, so you can look it up. Here we have actually, oh, I'm sorry, Joe, go.
I was just saying, this is just pointing out the various different resources we have on the website. When you go on the APFA website under resources, that's where you can see all the different departments, health, safety, etc. And one of the ones we wanted to highlight was the removal code. And when you go to the removal codes, you'll see all the different DEX removal codes you might see on your schedule, and you can search them. So if you're not sure what a code is and what it means on your schedule, you can search that, and then you will know what it means and whether or not any pay protections might apply. And then also when you go to resources and pay, there's a link to the pay resource guide. And that's a company document that thoroughly goes over how to read your paycheck as well as your HI-1, and it has some great explanations of trip rigs as well. It is an excellent resource. I don't often say that a company resource is good, but in this one, it does thoroughly cover, and you can really help you understand your paycheck a lot better. And it's a good way to start to understand and make sure your pay is correct.
Joe, are you okay for me to take this?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. So we frequently have flight attendants emailing us about a PBS award, or rather a Miss Award. There is a hotline that comes out on the 18th of each month after PBS is, after you can see your award, the hotline comes out normally in the afternoon. And there is a set process on how to challenge an award. Just click on that hotline. And as you can see here in the screenshot, you have the company PBS bid award summary, the summary by base, the award files, and then the hyperlink to the PBS Miss Award process. Please remember, you will always have to contact the company first. You have to file under the support tab. You go to links, support tab, and then file the PBS award. Because if you do not file with the company, it is not going to be reviewed. Then once you receive a response from them under the support tab and you disagree with it, then please file out the PBS Miss Award on the APFA website, and that was under the resources and forms that we just viewed earlier.
All right, I guess I'm taking over on this one. Oh.
Todd can't hear you.
How about now?
Yep.
Now you can. Now you can, and you can hear me as well. So good. Okay. All right. So yeah, on the website, we also have an interactive version of this. So if you go under PBS bidding and awards, you can see this award summary, and there's two options. Yeah, right there. She's going on over there. So bidding, and it'll be under monthly bidding, and then PBS award summary is where you'd find this. And so you can compare month over month. Yeah, you have to be logged in. You can compare month over month. So if you wanted to see, okay, what was it like last year in June or July compared to this year, or you can compare different bases. You can see at a glance, we have kind of the short summary up at the top there. So yeah, here's June. If you just click on Miami, you'll see what happened for June. So you see right away, okay, we had a minimum. It started at seniority 9,852. And we didn't have a second constraint. You can see the basics of it there. And if you go further down, if you're a data geek like me and you really want to get deep and further down yet still, you can really sort through and choose, this has all of the information. It's basically each one of those that Linda was talking about, but the entire history that we have. So you can pick and choose how much of that you want to look at. So yeah, just another resource. So you have either the hotline one that comes through, or you have this version.
And I'm just pulling up the DEX removal code page. I know that Joe and Linda touched upon before. I just wasn't able to pull up on the website. This is what it looks like. You can input any code here, and it'll spit out for you the codes. And it also has them laid out.
Okay, so here is our last slide. Just as an FYI, for June, we had system-wide 8 confirmed Miss Awards. just to give you an idea, with 27,000 people bidding. But those were 8 confirmed ones. We wanted to include some slides and some pictures of the PBS screen, but unfortunately it was in maintenance mode this morning, so we couldn't grab any, or yesterday. So as a reminder, when you bid a TCR and you bid specific trips, please make sure you do the math. So for example, if you bid an 80 to 85 hour TCR, but you bid 4 trips with 15 hours, that's only 60 hours. So you're not going to have enough. I know we all hate math, but the EFB has actually a little time calculator on it that is very useful for figuring this out. So please remember, when you bid specific, make sure that you bid a TCR that matches the trips that you bid. The second thing is generic and specific bidding. When you are in layer 1 and you bid specific trips, you're already telling the system, these are the trips that I do want. And on the flip side means you're also telling it what you do not want, right? Because you bid specific. So example that we see frequently, a flight attendant bids 4 specific trips in layer 1, 3 positions each. That should show up on your layer tab as 12 trips pairings in your layer 1. But then somebody might go ahead and in the generic properties bids avoid layover in Houston. When you tell the system that you want to avoid layovers in Houston, it will go in and say, okay, so you want every single trip added to your layer 1 that does not lay over in Houston. And where it should show that you bid 12 position trips, it now shows 2,360. That is why you need to check your layer tab, because when you check that layer tab, that green bar on the top that has the numbers of how many trips pairings are in a pool, that would be your indicator. Oh, I must have bid something that conflicted with my 4 specific trips. And it allows you to go back and check, because if you bid generic and specific together, you might end up with a much larger pool than you anticipate. And because they're all considered equal, your award might look very different than what you envisioned. On the PBS that we are going to have, I don't know if it's already there, but there is a document that outlines with examples the difference between generic and specific bidding and why best not to do it. Just remember that.
Yes. Okay. Oh, we have a question. Can you explain why after awards are final, why there's so much left in open time? I'm new enough that I'm still learning, so I don't understand why all the trips haven't been assigned and what falls into open time isn't IROPS, sick calls, etc.
Okay, so when we actually have contractual language in 10D that talks about PBS, and it does allow for up to 3% for the entire month of a bid. Okay, so for the month of June, Todd, did you have the PBS bid summary? Actually tells you exactly how much open time remained after the award, and it's 3% across the entire month. Normally, it has to be distributed equal. So it's actually not that many trips because it's 3%, 3%. So it's distributed equal throughout the month. So no I think the aim is to have no more than 5% on a single day. But we need some open time. If you have no open time at all, then when TTS opens up on the 21st, you will not have anything to trade. And there is also the thing that sometimes you cannot force trips onto a flight attendant's schedule if the based on the flight attendant's bidding, right? So if you bid and you don't use your 30 and 7 waiver, you don't use your 24 and 7 waiver, etc. So it's very constrictive of what can be added to your schedule. At the same time, your TCR bidding comes into effect as well. The computer cannot give you any more. The default is 70 to 90 hours, so it cannot give you any more. So it tries to find the best solution to have the lowest amount of time open, but the max that can be open is 3. It's not always 3%. A lot of times it's less. And the screen that Todd showed you just a minute ago that's interactive, you can actually go back and look to see how much open time Miami had over the last several months, couple of years. Does that help answer the question? Does that make sense? I couldn't hear a response, Nick.
Hey, Nick, we can't hear you.
How about now?
Now
Okay,
we
so
can
let
hear
me,
you.
let me start over. So she asked the question about when we're trying to trade in TTS, she's getting the open time exceeded error, the message. I was telling her about the 3% daily and monthly that it looks at. Then she asked the question about trading day for day, 3 day for 3 days, same calendar days. She's still getting the same message of open time exceeded. And
If you're
that might be a
Okay,
question
so
for Joe and Linda, because that shouldn't happen.
if
What was
you
that,
are
Linda?
trading for the exact same days, report to release, it should be treated as a neutral trade and it shouldn't be running into the daily OT exceeded or monthly OT exceeded in that scenario. But where you could be seeing that potentially is it's not necessarily and just a direct open time transaction. And so you could be matching up with another flight attendant, and that could be causing someone's trip has to go in that chain of people, has to go into open time, and it may be on different days. So you could see it in that scenario because of a chain. But if it's just a direct your trip for another trip that is an open time and it's the exact same days, it should be considered neutral and shouldn't be running into open time limits. If you suspect it to be incorrect, then you could file a direct connect, and then you could also do a scheduling system issue, and we could look into it to what exactly occurred.
Yeah, because they can look into it, because on the back end, they can see more than we can on the front end, right? Because when you think about TTS, it's chains. So we think about all the links in the fence, and once they all match up, you're good. But at some point, the fence ends, and some trip ends up in open time. So that's kind of what the whole system looks at, and that's how it mix and matches and gets trips from A to B to D to F. So just kind of it makes that chain in the computer. But they can always look into it for you. So if it happens, just fill out the direct connect and the scheduling systems form, and they can look into it for you. Joe, I'll tell you, Joe and Linda do a really good job at deep diving things. They're really good at their job.
It's also got the same.
So I think that's it for questions for Joe and Linda. Thank you guys so much for coming. I did have a couple more questions online, but I won't keep you guys for that because I can answer those, and we'll let you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So a
Thank
question
you
we
for
get.
having us.
You will have a good one. A question we got quite a few times is that the bid sheet. You know, the bid sheets every month seem to be looking worse and worse. You know, where are all the good trips? Where are all the good layovers in the Caribbean? Where are they all going? So I actually asked the question myself to the guy in charge of that, Doug Price. I asked him on the 3rd, we had our allocations call. And when the company builds the allocations, they use a program called the Optimizer. And the Optimizer, they put what they want, right? What they want trips to look like, how much sit time they want. So they tell it what they want, and then the system goes in and takes all the flights in the system and puts it all together. So when we're looking at specifically the Caribbean, I ask because that's what a lot of the questions are, because we used to have a lot of good layovers in the Caribbean. Now, if we have a layover, it's short. It looks at the plane. So when we're looking at where it's not necessarily where the crew is going or has been, but the example he used was a plane starts in Detroit. It goes Detroit to Miami, and then it goes down to St. Martin, we'll say. But that plane has to come back to Miami because it has to go back to Detroit in the evening. So the easiest way to do that is to make a turn, same crew, same airplane, fly it down, fly it back. Well, because Miami is the gateway to the Caribbean, the easiest places to build the turns to the Caribbean are in Miami. So Miami and Charlotte both are seeing more of those turns to the Caribbean, Central America, as opposed to layovers, because it's the easiest place to build them, especially when they need the aircraft somewhere else. Because otherwise, if you send a crew down there and there's no crew to come back, you'd have to lay the airplane over, and that's taking away the airplane availability. It's more on the lines of airplanes than crews. So that's why we are seeing less and less of those, what I used to love, long Caribbean layovers on the beach. I've asked for more. They said they'll do what they can. And when it comes to allocations, the only thing we can do is make suggestions. So every month on the 3rd, we have a call with the company, and they tell us the plan, and they take our suggestions. We give them the suggestions, and then we hope and pray that the next month we'd have the allocations again. They've listened to our suggestions and given us some more. I don't expect a lot. There wasn't a lot of change for July. And also remember, July is our busiest month in the year. So July, we have the most flights. We have the biggest schedule. We have the most flight attendants working and flying at one time. So July is really just what's the best way we can optimize people and airplanes. So just be cautious of that in July. I'm hoping as it starts to slow down, maybe we can try to get some more of those decent layovers back. Because I know when I look at the bid sheet, a lot of them are very short if they're there. And also, now that we're looking, they look at sit times and things like that, it's easy to put a turn on the front end of a trip, or it's easy to put a turn on the back end of a trip. Because from here to the Caribbean, it's short. So you can add those turns. From Dallas or Philly, it's really hard to add a Caribbean turn because of the length of the flight. So I think we're just going to see more and more of those, unfortunately, and less of the nice layovers in the Caribbean. But I still will argue and complain every month. Don't worry, because I want to fly them too. We got a couple questions about the crew room. I have this on my agenda to talk to management. We're supposed to hear who our new base director is in the near future. As we know, Chris Hoogstead moved on to training, so we have an open spot. I believe in the next week or so, we should hear who that person is, and that's one of the first things on my list is the crew room and the sleep room. I was walking by the pilot sleep room about 3 weeks ago, and they were getting all brand new shiny recliners. Recliners, not just chairs, nice recliners. So there's going to be a conversation as to why can't we have those, and when can we actually get decent furniture. And now that we don't have mailboxes on the other side, we really don't need that whole bank of computers, because we don't, we have the computers where you can do your CQ, and we've got like 6 computers in that little nook That big thing of computers could probably go away and we can get more seating. Because Miami's just growing. We need more seating. That little area for seating is not enough. So I'm going to try to get them to expand that operations area to the other side of the hallway, take out those computers and maybe have a nice lit, where you can see outside the window and have a little natural light. That's my goal. No guarantee they're going to do it, but that's my goal because I think we need a bigger, more refreshed light. Yeah, we have a lot of flight attendants. I walk through there and I'm like, glad I don't need to sit here because I couldn't if I needed to. So that's on the list. Let's see. This was a good one that I'm going to bring up was American Airlines setting up a WhatsApp phone number for people who travel, when they're outside the country. Sometimes people don't have the ability to call because their cell phone plans don't allow it. But American having a WhatsApp number that you could text or call to say, hey, I need help. It's the scheduling or the iOS even. So I'll bring that up to management. Todd, were there any more questions online? Did you guys have any questions? Kind of dwindled out, but we got a couple. Huh?
Spaces money. But you know where the others sleep from the dark room?
Mhm.
That door, like right in front, is that occupied? I know it's Dade County, right? Is that their?
That's a good question.
It's a huge.
Big area.
Yeah.
That's all, they own all that. space.
Right, that's what I'm.
So it's definitely available.
But it's, yeah.
That's why I'm thinking if we use the space we already pay for, because we don't need those 10 computers there. Because when you go in there, most of the time people are sitting there doing whatever on their own phone or whatever.
Down by the elevators, to the left of the elevators, that door is all open space. Well, it used to be open space, but it's all open space.
Yeah.
It's just constructed unfinished space.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's so much a lack of space as a lack of pay for.
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna go probably a little bit beyond. All right. And I don't know, this is just kind of thinking, being that we have a lot more commuters, such as myself. And I do double ups, I fly Rio. And the other flight attendants, since we have so much, people that do sleep overnight. That bathroom where the lockers are, is that part of or is that, the unused bathroom? Where the lockers, if you're walking out that door towards the back, that's not part of the flight service, right?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
That could be deactivated or something.
I can ask. Doesn't hurt to ask the questions. You don't ask. I was always told if you don't ask the question, the answer is always no.
What happens there, John?
One's down the hallway by the.
Yeah, the lockers. What's that?
Like private option?
You don't
No,
know
where we used to come in before in the back.
Yeah.
There's lockers back there, wings lockers.
Yeah, the wings lockers.
Oh.
That old
And then
entrance.
if you go out that door,
Mhm.
then there's the whole bathroom. Yeah.
Hallway.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Questions? Do you have questions?
We have one more question. We're probably gonna get some feedback as I say this one, but about the hugs and kisses that are offered in ETB. Why are we being punished to get away from a trip and offering a little extra to our fellow coworker? Also, I talked with a pilot a few days ago and they can offer money to drop their trips. We are being punished for something other than cartel. This is normally junior flight attendants trying to get out of the trip.
I can't say that I disagree with that statement. Sometimes you need a day off and that's the only way. So I can't say that I agree with the way the company is handling the incentives, we'll say. However, they're the company trips, they own them. They can make the policies they choose. I too have checked into the pilots because I did hear that. The pilots do not put incentives into any company system. They use other methods. I won't tell all the methods, but they don't advertise in the company programs that they have incentivized a trip. So the company does not have control over that because they're not using company property to do it. Not telling flight attendants to do that at all. Not telling flight attendants to go out there and do that at all. I'm just saying that's the difference where the pilots continue to do it. They are not using company systems and ETB to do that. Yes.
I just want to make a statement. I only have about 24 years bidding seniority. And I've been in Miami probably 20 years. I have never been able to get, I have never seen a European trip on TTS ever. Maybe that morning for that night, but
Not on UBL, so not.
never.
So when I come in here and play around with the system with the new hires, I will tell you, we see them every now and then because we go in the systems and we play and we see what's there. They are there rarely, but we're always surprised when we're scrolling through the trips and we're like, hey, look what's open. And then we try to decide if we could fly it.
It's like a closed.
So, you know, the kick talked about the metrics, right? The metrics that they're working with the company. I think that some of those metrics will be able to change the bidding habits of flight attendants. Because we know there are people who bid a lot and don't fly a lot, right? And I think that if we use some of the metrics to our advantage to stop that activity, because that is the cartel activity, right? Using your schedule for things you don't intend to fly, that's against company policy. So I think if we can curb that, then I think obviously we see those trips trickle farther down than they normally would. Because if somebody's only going to bid 2 because that's all they're going to fly instead of 5, now we're going to see more trips start dropping. So,
I've flown international before, so I've been to Europe. It's just like I would like to get back once in a while. And it's just, you know, I heard, well, you know, if you wanted to pay $250, you could get a trip. Well, I'm not gonna pay $250 for it to work.
and that's
a
the
trip.
problem, you know, because there are people holding those IPDs that do sell them. I was told if I paid somebody $400, I could have their trip to Madrid. I said, I don't need to go to Madrid that bad. At that point, I don't think I would have made $400 on the trip to Madrid. So, I mean, I think that is the what we're trying to curb. And I think the company and the union can all agree that that behavior is not acceptable and we need to try to curb it. And so this is a good way to do that without somebody losing their job. Because we also don't want people to get fired, but we just want people to understand, use the system the way they're intended so everyone can benefit. I think that's the best way. Todd.
Just so you know, there's 3 open trips right now on IPD. Right now, if you were to look at TTS, there's a ton of IPD trips at TTS to trade. But I assume you're talking about IPD to pick up.
Pick up. I mean, you never see anything. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
not on the
you'll
days you
see.
want 'em.
But they're there. I mean, looking right now, there's.
I mean, if you have, yeah, I see, you know, yeah, I have a London, I'd like a, you know, Rio or something,
But the straight drops
I
are,
can't.
there are few.
Okay.
so.
Well, Todd,
Okay, this is going back to the question of, let's see, about the ETB posts and things like that. The company said we couldn't do that on social media either. They said they would be monitoring social media. So that's one. I have another question after that too.
So, and that's why I told us that please don't go to social media to do that. I am still researching the pilot part of it to see what information I can gather. It's my opinion, it could be my opinion alone, that flight attendants and pilots should be treated equally in situations like this because we're doing the same job. We don't do the same job. I understand.
Ever.
You know, I come with a little more vinegar than some people, and I don't have a problem making waves. Some people don't like that. I don't have a problem making waves. So, if I need to make us think about it, bet your bottom dollar you can put money on that I will. You have another question, Todd?
Okay, and this one is, why are we not opening the crew room on the east side?
The e-crew room, that's on my list of things to talk about when we talk about the crew room. I know it was closed during the pandemic. We are past that. I'm sure at this point it's mothballed. But that would be, we do have a lot of operations in E. It's not like we very rarely go to E. We have a lot of operations in E. So that's also another topic on my agenda to discuss when we talk about crew rooms, is reopening the crew room on the east side.
And Chick-fil-A's open.
And now we're getting, there's more things going on in E. And I think that's it. I want to thank everyone for coming today. My plan is to do these once a quarter. So I will put out the next time it happens. This is also recorded. So if you want to play back anything, it'll be on the APFA website very shortly. But thank you all again, and fly safe. And if you guys need something, please reach out. We're always here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.